They never announce it. They never raise their hand and declare what they are doing. They move in silence. And yet, without warning, you are caught in their orbit. You are pulled into a hunger you cannot explain. This is how women use other men to increase your desire without you noticing. It is not a theory. It is not an accident. It is a design as old as civilization. Think of the first seconds after you see her glance at her phone, smiling at a message that is not yours. Think of the flash of heat that strikes your chest when she casually mentions the man at work who complimented her. Think of the way your stomach drops when she laughs a little too hard at another man's joke. None of these moments prove betrayal. None of them prove disloyalty, but every one of them proves power. Her power over your imagination. Her power over your hunger. Her power to take another man's existence and use it like fuel to set you on fire. Desire does not live in certainty. Certainty kills it. Desire is born in risk, in tension, in the fear of loss. And women understand this at a level most men refuse to admit. They know that the moment you feel too safe, you stop chasing, you stop fighting, you stop seeing them as rare. So they introduce the shadow of another man, not to destroy the bond, but to keep it alive. It is a cruel paradox. You want to believe love thrives in peace, but it does not. Love thrives in storms. Desire thrives in war. And she knows how to start a war without ever drawing blood. She lets you see the outline of another man, not the man himself. The outline is enough. The possibility is enough. Because your mind fills the silence with nightmares far darker than reality. This is how she bends you. This is how she tests you. Not by rejecting you outright, but by reminding you subtly, ruthlessly, that you are not the only one who sees her. That she could be taken. That you could lose. Look back at your own history. How many times did you feel the sharpest hunger for a woman when she seemed close to slipping away? How many times did another man's presence make you suddenly attentive, suddenly generous, suddenly desperate? That is the spell. That is the mechanism. And it has worked on you more times than you dare to admit. Ask yourself this. Was your desire truly yours? Or was it engineered? A woman will weaponize uncertainty in 1,000 ways. She will mention the man who looked at her twice in the store. She will tell you about the ex who reached out. She will describe the guy who always flirts with her on social media. To you, these are words. To your subconscious, these are threats. Suddenly, you are imagining her slipping away, imagining her in someone else's arms, imagining her choosing another over you. She has not done any of this, but the image burns, and the burn becomes fuel. Why does this work so powerfully? Because men are wired for competition, for territory, for protecting what is theirs. When you sense another man in the frame, your primal brain roars awake. Your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, your heart races. You feel alive, but also enslaved. She has turned another man into a weapon without him even knowing it. It is not that women gather in circles and plot this openly. No, this instinct is ancient. It is inherited, passed in silence from mother to daughter, generation after generation, in the way they watch men move, the way they test their power, the way they measure their value by the fight it provokes. They may not articulate it, but they know it works. They know desire is not maintained by what you give her, but by what you fear losing. This is why she will sometimes grow cold without reason, why she will go silent for a day, why she will act distracted, unavailable. Not because she has lost interest, but because she wants to see how hard you will fight to pull her back. She wants proof, proof that she still matters, proof that you still feel the fire, proof that the leash is still tight. And what better way to get proof than to let the possibility of another man slip into your vision? You may call this manipulation. You may call it cruel, but she calls it survival, because she knows that once your desire dies, she dies in your eyes. And so she keeps you alive by keeping you restless. Now imagine her sitting across from you. Her phone lights up, and she turns it face down on the table. She does not explain. She does not look nervous. She keeps talking as if nothing happened. But in your mind, a war begins. Who was it? Why did she hide it? Why did she smile? Your pulse quickens. Your stomach churns. Your imagination devours you alive. She has not betrayed you. She has not confessed anything. And yet, she has already moved you, already controlled you, already made you chase her harder in ways you will not even admit to yourself. This is not love. This is strategy. And the truth cuts deep. Most of the times you believed you were chasing her out of passion, you were really chasing her because of fear. Fear of losing her to another man. Fear of being replaced. Fear of not being enough. But here is the hidden danger. When you cannot see this mechanism, you become its slave. You fight battles that do not exist. You compete with shadows. You waste your strength proving yourself to illusions. And she feeds on that proof, feeling alive in the storm you create. The spell only breaks when you see it for what it is. When you can finally say, this hunger is not pure, it is engineered. This desire is not mine alone, it is provoked. And once you know this, you face the hardest choice a man can face. Do you remain a pawn in the game, or do you rise above it? That choice is not comfortable. It is not easy. It is brutal. Because to rise above it, you must master yourself when every nerve in your body screams at you to react. You must learn to hold your ground when she expects you to chase. You must stare at the possibility of another man and refuse to let it burn you alive. That is the moment you stop being her puppet and start being a man she cannot move at will. And here is the paradox she will never admit. The moment you stop reacting to the shadow of other men, she feels something stronger than desire. She feels respect. Respect for the man who cannot be controlled. Respect for the man who does not break under fear. Respect for the man who stands like stone when others collapse. So I ask you, who are you? Are you the man who dances to the rhythm of her silence, or the man who commands his own? Are you the man who fights ghosts, or the man who cannot be haunted? If these words strike at your chest, then prove it. Leave a mark, not for me, not for approval, but for yourself. A comment here is not just words on a screen. It is a declaration. It is the act of saying you refuse to live blind, that you see the game, that you are awake, and only the awake have a chance to win, because the asleep will always be slaves. This is only the first step. She stands in the center of a crowded room. Men notice her. Some glance, some linger. You see it. You feel it. And something inside you twists. She has not betrayed you. She has not even left your side. But in that instant, she becomes more valuable to you than she was a moment before. Why? Because others saw her too. Because in their eyes, she was desired. And in your heart, that desire multiplies. This is the unspoken game. Women do not only live off your attention. They magnify it by letting you see the attention of others. It is not always obvious. Sometimes it is deliberate. Other times it is instinct. But the effect is the same. Your desire explodes, not in peace, but in rivalry. Think about the times she told you about another man's compliment. She may have said it casually, almost dismissing it. But why did she tell you at all? She told you because she knew it would strike a chord. She knew it would echo inside you long after the words left her lips. She planted the image of another man's eyes on her, another man's voice calling her beautiful. And that image, even if you hated it, even if you denied it, made you want her more. You tell yourself you are strong. You tell yourself you are above jealousy. But jealousy is not weakness. Jealousy is proof. Proof that you see her value. Proof that you know others see it too. And she knows how to use that proof against you. It starts with small things. She takes longer to reply. She posts a picture where the comments come fast from names you do not recognize. She laughs at a story someone else told. None of this means betrayal, but every piece feeds the same machine. And the machine is inside you. It is the endless loop of questions. Who is he? Why did she smile like that? What does she see in him? Why do I suddenly feel like I need to fight harder? This is how women control without commands. They do not need to tell you to chase them. They only need to let you see someone else might. And that alone is enough to pull you into pursuit. Men like to believe they are hunters, that they choose the chase, that they write the rules. But the bitter truth is that women often set the arena. They build the stage, they place the rivals, they orchestrate the drama without ever lifting a sword. They let you fight ghosts while they remain untouched, observing which man fights hardest. And here lies the paradox. She may not even want the other man. She may not even think of him twice, but she knows you will. She knows his presence, or even the suggestion of his presence, will ignite you. He becomes her instrument, her mirror, her weapon. He exists in your mind more than in her life. And that is enough to shape your behavior. You need to face this question. How many times have you been driven to chase, to prove, to fight, not because of her, but because of another man you imagined in her orbit? How many of your strongest desires were born not in love, but in rivalry? How much of your devotion has been the result of shadows she allowed you to see? The answer is uncomfortable, but it is the truth. Most of what you call love is really fear. Fear of losing. Fear of being replaced. Fear that another man will step where you stand. And women know this. They may not say it, but they know. They can see it in your eyes. They can feel it in your body when the subject of another man appears. They can sense how quickly your energy changes when the possibility of competition rises. This is why so many women keep the possibility alive. They let the shadow linger. They do not kill the doubt, because doubt is useful. Doubt is leverage. Doubt keeps you alive, alert, invested. And if you think this is cruel, remember, to her, it is survival. Because once your hunger dies, she feels invisible. Once your fire fades, she feels forgotten. So she feeds you with uncertainty to keep herself alive in your eyes. But what happens to you in the process? You become restless. You become reactive. You become a man who cannot see straight, a man who lives on edge, a man whose strength is consumed by invisible battles. And she watches. Sometimes she enjoys it. Sometimes she simply confirms her worth. But always she knows. As long as you are fighting shadows, she is in control. Now imagine this scenario. You are out together, and another man greets her warmly, perhaps with a touch that lingers half a second too long. She smiles, not nervously, but confidently. She knows you saw it. She knows you felt it. And later, when you ask about it, she laughs, dismisses it, calls it nothing. But you know it was not nothing, because that half second stretched into an eternity inside your mind. And for days, you think about it, replay it, wrestle with it. She does not need to mention it again. You will keep the fire alive for her. Do you understand now how deep this runs? She uses men like echoes. She uses them like shadows. They do not need to exist fully. Their mere outline is enough to bend you. And once you bend, you prove your devotion. But here is the dangerous part. Most men never wake up from this. They live their entire lives chasing shadows, proving themselves endlessly, feeding their energy into the storm. And in the end, they cannot even tell the difference between love and rivalry, between genuine desire and engineered obsession. The moment you begin to see this, you begin to free yourself. Because once you recognize that much of your hunger is manipulated, you can choose. You can choose when to chase and when to stand still. You can choose to see her worth without needing the threat of another man to remind you. You can choose to fight only for what is real, not for illusions. But this choice will cost you. It will cost you the comfort of reacting. It will cost you the adrenaline of rivalry. It will cost you the easy fire of jealousy. And what will replace it? Discipline, strength, presence, the quiet power of a man who cannot be moved by ghosts. Ask yourself, are you willing to pay that price? Or will you stay where you are, forever dancing to the rhythm of shadows? If these words strike you, do not stay silent. Silence is the language of the blind. Speak, leave your mark. Not to feed me, not to feed her, but to feed yourself. A comment here is not decoration. It is declaration. It is proof that you see the game and refuse to stay asleep, because only the awake can break free. Picture this. She steps into a room filled with strangers. She does not announce herself. She does not try to be noticed. But within minutes, eyes turn. You feel it. You watch as men scan her, measure her, desire her. You tell yourself it means nothing. You tell yourself you are confident. But beneath the mask, something cracks. Because you do not see them as strangers anymore. You see them as rivals. And that is exactly what she wants. Not consciously, perhaps. Not with a plan written in her mind, but with instinct carved into her bones. She knows that the desire of other men amplifies her in your eyes. She knows that competition makes you sharper, more attentive, more desperate. And so she lets it happen. She allows the presence of others to multiply her value inside you. She becomes priceless, not because of who she is, but because you are forced to fight for her. Men are built to protect territory, built to guard, to defend, to compete. Women do not need to swing swords to awaken this instinct. They only need to let you believe the territory is at risk. And once you believe, you become predictable. You become obedient to fear. Think back to the relationships that broke you. Think back to the women you could not let go of, no matter how much they hurt you. Was it truly love that kept you bound? Or was it the constant presence of rivalry? The ex who still called her. The male friend she swore was harmless. The coworker who smiled too long. You said you hated them, but secretly they fueled your obsession. Without them, the fire might have died. With them, it burned until you were ash. This is the hidden structure of desire. Women do not increase your hunger by feeding it. They increase it by starving it, by twisting it, by threatening to take it away. They do not need to kiss another man. They only need to let his shadow linger in the room. And that shadow does the work for them. You can see it in her eyes when she tells you a story. A harmless story. A man who bought her a drink. A man who admired her. A man who looked at her in passing. Why does she tell you this? Not because she cares about the story itself, but because she cares about the effect it has on you. The flicker in your eyes, the tension in your shoulders, the fire in your chest. She watches it, measures it, feeds on it. That is her proof. Proof that you still want her. Proof that you still fear losing her. Proof that she is still valuable in your world. Men call this manipulation. Women call this validation. And the truth is, it is both. It is cruel, but it is survival. She does it not because she wants to destroy you, but because she wants to keep the fire alive. Because when the fire dies, she dies with it. But what does it do to you? It weakens you. It makes you restless. It makes you bleed your strength into illusions. You chase not because you want to, but because you are forced to. You fight battles that do not exist. You kneel to fears that live only in your imagination. And every time you do, you prove the system works. That is why so many men lose themselves. That is why so many men become addicted to women who torment them. Because the torment is not an accident. It is a design. And until you see it, you cannot escape it. But here lies the truth that separates boys from men. Once you recognize the pattern, you can break it. Once you see the shadows for what they are, you can stop chasing them. Once you understand that much of your hunger is provoked, you can choose to stand still in the fire. And in that stillness, you become untouchable. She will test you. She will wait for your reaction. She will expect jealousy, confrontation, pursuit. And when she does not get it, something shifts. She begins to see you differently, not as a boy scrambling for approval, but as a man who cannot be moved, a man whose value does not depend on rivals, a man who is whole without illusions. Do you understand the power of this? The man who does not break under the weight of shadows becomes more terrifying than any rival she could imagine, because he is free, free from the leash, free from the cycle, free from the endless game of rivalry. And that freedom makes him rare. Rare men cannot be replaced. Rare men command respect. Rare men create their own gravity. Ask yourself, have you ever been that man? Or have you always been the one who reacts? The one who fights blindly? The one who proves his worth against shadows he cannot touch? Be honest. How many times have you danced to this rhythm? How many times have you let your fire be controlled by her silence, her stories, her carefully planted seeds? If you are ready to stop, then leave your mark. Write it here. Not to feed me, not to feed her, to feed yourself. A man who comments is not just pressing keys. He is declaring that he sees, that he refuses to be blind, that he refuses to fight ghosts. Because only men who declare themselves can change themselves. And only men who change themselves can ever be free. She is clever with silence. She knows that words are not always needed to move you. Sometimes it is the absence of words that cuts deepest. She can create storms inside you without ever raising her voice. A pause, a delayed answer, a glance at her phone followed by nothing. These fragments pierce you more than arguments ever could, because the mind cannot resist filling silence with fear. And fear is the seed of desire. You tell yourself you are strong, logical, immune, yet every man has felt it. The sickness in your stomach when she seemed distant. The heat in your chest when another man's name appeared. The way you became more attentive, more generous, more desperate only when you believed she was slipping away. You call it love. But what if it is something darker? What if it is programming? Women do not feed your desire with certainty. They feed it with doubt. Doubt is oxygen. Doubt keeps the flame alive. Certainty kills the chase, and once the chase is gone, she feels invisible. That is why she will never let you rest too long. She will create distance just to pull you closer. She will let another man's presence hang in the air just to test your hunger. She does not always plan this, but she knows it works. Imagine this moment. You are out together, her laughter ringing out, but not for you. Another man said something, and she lit up like a match. You force a smile, but inside you feel the twist. The image repeats in your head for days. You do not forget it. You do not forgive it. And yet you want her more. That is the cruelty. That is the spell. Or picture this. You text her, and hours pass with no reply. Finally she answers, light, casual, as if nothing happened. She may even mention she was talking to someone. She does not specify who. She does not need to. Your mind fills the blanks with shadows, with rivals, with faces you have never seen. And before you know it, you are chasing again, proving again, desperate again. She never told you to chase. She never asked for your desperation. She only planted doubt, and doubt did the work. Now ask yourself, how many times have you been ruled by shadows? How many nights have you lost to scenarios that never existed? How much energy have you given to battles that were never real? And the hardest question, how much of your desire for her was born not from her, but from the fear of other men? This is the dark truth. Women do not need to betray you to control you. They only need to let you imagine betrayal. The imagination is stronger than reality. The imagination keeps you burning. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You begin to notice how often it happens. The casual mention of another man, the glance at a message, the subtle withdrawal of attention. Each time, your hunger grows. Each time, you prove your devotion. And each time, you lose a piece of yourself. But here is the path out. Awareness. Once you see the pattern, you can break it. Once you recognize the manipulation, you can choose. You can refuse to chase shadows. You can refuse to waste energy on rivals that may not even exist. You can look her in the eye and stand still when she expects you to react. That stillness is not weakness. That stillness is power, because nothing terrifies her more than a man who cannot be moved by fear. That man is dangerous. That man is rare. That man is untouchable. Most men will never become him. Most men will keep chasing, keep burning, keep losing themselves in the cycle. But the few who rise above the few, who learn to master themselves, become unforgettable. They are no longer slaves to shadows. They create their own gravity. They become the men who define the room, not the men who compete for space inside it. Which one are you? The man who fights illusions, or the man who cannot be touched by them? The man who reacts, or the man who controls himself? The boy who chases, or the man who stands still? If you feel the fire of these words, leave your mark. Do not stay silent. Silence means blindness. Silence means chains. A comment here is a declaration, a statement of defiance, proof that you see the system and refuse to be another pawn. Because men who refuse to declare themselves will always remain prisoners. And men who declare themselves will always carve their own path. The choice is brutal. The choice is yours. Every woman knows this truth, though few will admit it out loud. Your deepest hunger for her has rarely been about her alone. It has been about the presence of others, about the rivals she allowed you to imagine, about the endless tension between safety and loss. She knows that your fire does not burn brightest when she gives herself freely, but when she withholds, when she creates distance, when she plants doubt. That doubt becomes the fuel. That distance becomes the leash. And you run again and again, believing it is your choice. You remember the times you lost yourself, the moments you scrolled through her phone in secret, desperate to find a name, a message, proof of what you feared. You remember the way your chest collapsed when you saw her laughing with another man, even if it was harmless. You remember how much harder you loved her after those moments, how much more you gave, how much more you begged with your silence. Do not lie to yourself. Those moments shaped you. They chained you. They exposed how easily you could be controlled. And here is the part that shatters illusions. She does not need to betray you to make you bleed. She only needs to let the idea of betrayal hover like smoke. Smoke you breathe in every time she goes cold, every time she delays her response, every time she lets the shadow of another man cross your vision. She does not even need to light the fire. She only needs to hand you the match. You burn yourself. But what happens when you stop burning? What happens when you refuse the leash? What happens when you stand still, watching the shadow of another man pass over her, and feel nothing? That is when the game breaks. That is when her power collapses. Because she can only control what you fear. If you do not fear losing her, if you do not fear another man, then she cannot bend you. And here is the paradox she will never confess. The moment you refuse to be controlled, the moment you refuse to dance to shadows, is the moment she feels something stronger than victory. She feels respect. A man who cannot be manipulated is not easy to hold, but he is impossible to forget. He does not chase. He does not compete. He does not beg. He commands. And in commanding himself, he commands the world around him. Ask yourself, have you ever been that man? The man who could look her in the eye while another man admired her and remain unmoved? The man who could feel the heat of jealousy rise, but let it pass like smoke, refusing to act on it? The man who did not need to compete to know his worth? If not, then you know what chains still bind you. The world is full of men who live as slaves, slaves to jealousy, slaves to insecurity, slaves to shadows. But the world remembers only the men who broke free, men who could not be moved by fear, men who saw through the illusions and refused to kneel, men who created gravity so strong that others bent around them. So the question stands before you, sharp as a blade. Will you remain the man who reacts, or will you become the man who commands? Will you keep fighting invisible rivals, or will you rise above them? Will you be remembered as another pawn, or as the man who shattered the system? This choice is not philosophy. This choice is your life. Every interaction, every relationship, every glance at her phone, every laugh that is not yours will test you. And each time, you will reveal who you are. A boy chasing shadows, or a man walking in his own fire. Do not hide from this. Do not shrink back into silence. If these words have struck you, if they have forced you to remember, then leave your mark here. A comment is not decoration. It is a declaration. Proof that you refuse the leash. Proof that you refuse blindness. Proof that you are awake, because only the awake can ever be free. And when this voice fades, when the screen goes dark, when you are left alone with your thoughts, the question will still echo inside you. Are you the man who dances to shadows, or the man who commands his own destiny? The answer is not written here. The answer is written in how you live after this moment. Choose wisely.